Again, number one is just review from yesterday. What I will try to review and reiterate is that these two terms, 5x and 2x, they combine. And I highlighted them green, and then I highlighted this green in my standard form. They combine. So after we multiply, we do have to simplify. And again, this is standard form. We are going from factored form to standard form, and we'll keep talking about these two types of forms. We talked about yesterday how they are equivalents. They are equal. If I put this in Desmos and I put this in Desmos, I would get the same parabola. Okay? Let's move on to number 2. Number 2, we need to multiply that out. So draw a box, and let's multiply it out. We gave you a box for the first one. Let's see if you can do the next one. We're going to box it out. The factors go on each side. We're going to multiply it together. And we do have to be careful this time because we do have a negative. So how does that change your standard form? What questions do we have about the box method? Now we're going to start to go backwards. So let's look at number 4. Let's see if we can do this in reverse. Okay, we're going to fill in the blanks with the missing numbers. So we are starting with standard form, and we need to get to factored form. Let's look at this first one together. I have one of the factors. It's 3. 3 times what gives me 15? 5. Yep, so 5 has to be the second part of my factor. Let's look at part B. I know one of the factors is 2. I know that the C value down here is 6. So what must it be? 3. Right now I want you to fill in all the blanks with your group right now. We're going to summarize our patterns here in a minute. You're doing all of these with your group. I'm going to set a timer. And we'll check back in. I'll show you with an example right now. So what patterns do we notice for number 5? Let's just look at one that doesn't have it. Let's do part C. In the top goes your C value from your standard form. In the bottom goes the B value, that middle term, what the x's add to be. And then we're asking ourselves, what two things multiply to be your C value and add to be your B value? We did diamond problems, so we were trying to get ready for this, okay? In part 6, what do we think these two blanks are? What two things multiply to be 5 but add to be 6? I think we have it flip-flops. 2 times 3 would be 6. 2 plus 3 would be 5. Is that working here? No. We need another factor. We need another factor of 5. What two things multiply to be 5? 5 and 1. 5 and 1. 1 times 5, that's 5. 1 plus 5 is 6. So that's going to be 5 and 1. Right, what we're looking at in part B here is a GCF, a greatest common factor. What are all these numbers divisible by? 3, 18, and 15. They're all divisible by 3. So I'm going to pull out 3 first. And I'm left with x squared. If I do 18 divided by 3, what am I left with? 6. If I do 15 divided by 3, what am I left with? 5. Oh my gosh, this looks the exact same. We just pulled out the greatest common factor. Okay, so we covered a few things here. We looked at a GCF. We looked at this factoring pattern. Let's summarize it in our quick notes. So when we are writing quadratics in factored form, what's happening is we're going from standard form, x squared plus bx plus c, and then we're trying to write it in our factored form. And what we're using here is a diamond or a giant X. Okay, in my giant X, I'll always put my C value, and in the bottom, I'll put my B value from my standard form. I'm getting this from my standard form. And we always multiply to get the top number and add to get the bottom number. And we're figuring out what are these two side numbers going to be. That's going to tell us our factors. And again, this is when A is equal to 1. Right now, A is 1 in our standard form. We'll look at what happens when A is greater than 1. So let's just do another example. If I have x squared plus 7x plus 10, how do I set up my x, my giant X? Put 10 on the top and 7 on the bottom. And now I'm thinking, what two things multiply to be 10 but add to be 7? 5 and 2. Yep. Now I can write this in my factored form. X plus 2, x plus 5. Questions about our quick notes in that example? We're going to skip one in the check for understanding. We're going to start right at number 2. So I want you to use this giant X to write things in factored form. Let's give it a try. We've got A, B, and C. Give it a try with your group. Is anyone still writing the quick notes before I erase? Okay, we're going to jump down to 2. Give it a try with your group right now. X plus 9 times x plus 4. What if you wrote x plus 4 first? Is that still okay? Yes, I can multiply in either order. Okay, I could write that factor first. Part B, what two things multiply to be 10 but add to be negative 7? Negative 5 and negative 2. They're both negative. X minus 5, x minus 2. And we talked about C. It's not factorable. We'll get into later in this unit how do we deal with things that are not factorable. Number 3, we've got an equation written in standard form. How is this different than the problems we saw in number 2? What do you notice? How is this standard form different? Say it louder. What is it? Yeah, A is 2 this time. So we need to factor out a greatest common factor. 2, 4, negative 48. What are they all divisible by? 2. So our greatest common factor is going to be 2. So let's pull out 2 first, and then we'll factor it completely. So if I pull out 2, we're left with x squared. 4 divided by 2 is? And negative 48 divided by 2 is? Yeah, and now we can factor this completely. So negative 24 goes in the top, and 2 goes in the bottom. And I'm trying to figure out my factors. What two things multiply to be negative 24 but add to be 2? What two things? Sometimes it's helpful to list the factors. 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4. Which pair has it got to be?
6 negative 4.
Oh, it's 6 and then negative 4. So we've got x minus 4 and x plus 6. And I have this 2 out front. That's my greatest common factor. Now we've completely factored. Questions?